Hello, my name is Robert Michael Smith. I'm a digital sculptor, and I've been asked to discuss with you today the future of design. So, although I've been a sculptor and designer for well over 50 years now, it's really been the past 35 years that I've been actively engaged in digital design. And it was a real game changer. I would describe it as like moving from a handheld motor scooter to a very fast fighter jet in terms of the speed of how you get your ideas out, and then also how you manufacture, you produce your product directly through digital processes as well. I'm going to be showing you a lot of the first work that I began doing more than 30 years ago. And it was using design print first, and then the three-dimensional forms that were used eventually became the sculptures. And the sculptures also then evolved into virtual reality. The original images were printed on canvas, large G-clay prints, and virtual worlds were created. Early examples of worlds built specifically for virtual reality, and also synthetic biology, Freudian Jungian creatures. Also a series of prints of the wireframes of the three-dimensional forms. These functioned as prints on their own, but eventually all were shown together. And this was an exhibition in my Brooklyn studio, and you see 3 marble sculptures which were originally carved directly from the digital files into marble. There's a number of rapid prototype pieces that are on the shelves, and there's one of the large prints on canvas of a similar form. And these are a number of very early examples of gypsum prints. It's one of the first printers that I used about 25 years ago. It was called a Z-Core printer. That company has since been bought out by Stratasys. And then I started using the Stratasys Dimension to use ABS plastic and continuing this synthetic biology, also Freudian Jungian symbology, using traditional craft techniques such as gold leafing right on the ABS plastic forms, even silver paints. Some of these pieces then were given to craftsmen in China, and they were carved in stone, but also wood, as some of these. This is the piece that was shown earlier that was carved directly on a 3-axis milling machine back in about 2003. That was at 2 feet. Now this is the same form, but carved out in foam at about 6 feet in length. And this piece then has a polyurethane skin sprayed on, and this is located currently in front of Public Library in White Plains, New York. Another piece that was cut by milling machine in foam and then with a polyurethane skin sprayed on. I started working in China, and this is a black granite piece that was carved in the south of China near Xiamen. White granite from the same area, red granite from the same area of China. And this is a piece from the Digital Stone Project, which was exhibited in China in 2008 to 2009 at 4 venues. This is in the center of Chongqing. That's the Yangtze River in the background.
On the technology front, we've never had more ability to use computers to advance the idea of design, to give people more tools to understand what they're doing, to visualize the things, to simulate, to analyze. It's all part of a direction to, give people better tools to experience the things they're going to build before they actually build them.
The ability with a computer to try things, move things, change them, duplicate the shapes, move them around without worrying about gravity, without worrying about gluing them, without worrying about cutting shapes, was really a revelation. It's freedom.
Then once I've found the shape and the forms that I'm looking for, and I have the beauty and the intensity and the brilliance that I'm looking for in the work, then I'm able to send that file out to the rapid prototype printer, and then within another couple of days or so, I have a beautiful finished physical model.
It's a challenge, and it's an exciting challenge. This certainly couldn't have been possible when I started thinking about these things 40 years ago. I wouldn't have imagined that you could make a representation of something so complex as this.
I started working in stone because the material brought forward a permanency that I couldn't find in other materials I was working with.
And I think the definition on the line on this one is working a lot better. It's just bringing the hand back in.
For me, the sculpture is like making poetry with shape.
The exhibition in China also did go to Shanghai, as in this image. You've just seen some of these granite pieces in the video clip we just watched. But I also began to work in Vietnam, just as lots of Chinese companies go down to Vietnam for lower cost manufacture. I found that marble carvers in Vietnam were significantly lower than even the prices for workers in the south of China. And the work I was very pleased with, but I also continued to work in Italy, and this is the Carrara Mountains, some of the most famous marble quarries in the world. They've been quarrying out of these since ancient Rome and continue today. But this is where the real future, of course, lies with all new design and manufacture, is robots. This is a 7-axis robot. It's a rather large and expensive robot, but it's capable of reaching down and under and around into undercuts that a 3-axis CNC milling machine was never able to do. So I was able to start carving much more complex forms, such as this was the first piece that I did in Italy. In the second year, I produced this piece. In the third year, I produced this sculpture, which is on exhibition at the Strozzi, Villa Strozzi in Florence, with hard carving at the bottom that looks more like original traditional carving that Michelangelo himself would have done. There's a lot of references to his slave series in this. But later, this sculpture you will see was included in a new location at a much larger scale in China, but that's will come later. Now, this sculpture, this is a 3D print, was actually designed first in virtual reality. And this kind of design, haptically, in virtual reality, then 3D printed, or in this case also enlarged and cut by a 7-axis robot. I'm only doing the final surface working here. Eventually, robots will be sophisticated enough to even do that fine work. It's just very expensive now. But like all technology, those costs are being driven down significantly. This is one of the most recent pieces I did 2 years ago before the virus stopped us from going to Italy for the last couple of years, just as it stopped me from going to China for the last year and a half. But you'll see that I'm continuing to play with the synthetic biology. And this was also cut by robot, but this was carved on a 7-axis robot that was located in Long Island, Queens, USA. So the technology is now expanding. I'm sure that there are places in the south of China that also have this kind of equipment. Originally, I had been a metal caster and had gotten into digital technologies because I wanted to create a foundry of the 21st century. But all the other developments in virtual reality and in stone carving and synthetic biology sort of pulled me away for a while, but I was able to get back into doing some stainless steel casting, which was a first for me after having been a bronze caster and aluminum and iron caster for many decades. These races were all produced in Beijing with the help of a very good friend Wang Xingong, who's at Beijing Capital Normal University. I also did a 3D biosculpture print. There is a long video that you can find online to see more information about it, but essentially I 3D printed living cells into a form. Now, that form went into a 3D printed exoskeleton, but the 3D printed sculpture only lived for about a month before the cells died. And so I made a reliquary, which in Western culture is similar to a Chinese tomb, but it's simply for putting on display a body part. But I continued design into this idea of biological forms, and these sculptures really are endoskeletons for future synthetic biology. This could be a kind of a sea star kind of character. I have exhibited the virtual reality in tandem with the 3D prints, but whereas the 3D prints is a small model, in virtual reality you can see the sculptures at the height that I really see them meant to be, which is 40 or 50 feet in height. Now, the future of robotics is small robots. And we have been working with a group called Haddington Robots that has a surgically precise robotic arm. It's about the size of a human arm. and it costs under $10,000, which is a huge drop in price from those large 7-axis robotic carving machines, which cost upwards over $500,000. So eventually we'll have armies of these, and just simply recreating our hand-eye skills. We use motion capture to program these, but we also wanted to take it a step further. With my colleague, Alexander Vasiliev, when we were at New York Institute of Technology, we got a grant to build a low-cost bioprinter, 3D bioprinter. It's actually a 4D bioprinter because the cells grow over longer periods of time in a matrix. And this is the system that we created. So if you want to know where the future is going, we're all going to be designing and hacking synthetic biology. Now, I have also extrapolated these ideas to larger sustainability. And these are designs for future buildings with one of my sculptures out front. And in the interiors are also sculptural forms. So the idea is like Kurt Schwitter's Merzbau. We live inside of our sculptures. We do everything, all of our daily routines inside of our art. Now, I told you that there was a sculpture earlier that was in Italy that then was commissioned to be enlarged, and this is probably the largest sculpture that I've had produced to date. This is over 10 feet in height, over 3 meters, and it is now located in a new economic zone area in the center of the new area of Nanning, China. And I also had the largest 3D print made in the south of China for an exhibition on the beach in Shenzhen, China. And this is walking around the sculpture. You see that the sculpture changes dramatically as you move around it in 360 degrees. And here I am with some of the top sculptors of China, contemporary sculptors. So it's a nice group to be in. It was a nice award that I got for this digital design. So I continue to design with the idea that pieces will be fabricated in lightweight materials with metallic skins and hung from ceilings, and also including an LCD grid in the background that will have more the sense of what this looks like when I'm working in a three-dimensional world. I want my audience to see what I see. I also recently had twin sons, and about 1.5 years ago, when my wife was still pregnant, I started designing a series of sculptures that were based on the idea of twins in uterus. And I recently was in an exhibition in France, an online exhibition, but they did do a 3D print with a color printer. And this was the most recent piece that I had done. And 3D printing was something that we've had for a while, but it hasn't been as advanced as we'd like. So this was a big leap for me also. And I want to thank you for joining me today. And as I move off into the future, as you do, through a series of new dimensions, you're welcome to contact me at this email address, and you're more than welcome to view more of my art and more videos and lectures at this URL. Thank you for your attention today.